Hello, my name is Dr. Craig Wernberg, and I want to thank you for watching this presentation today. Can cannabis oil or CBD oil help brain disorders? I believe the research definitely shows that it can, and I hope that you walk away with an increased knowledge of what CBD oil does for the brain and some of the research that's out there. After all, what is more important than our brain? So taking good care of it is extremely important. It's something that we should all focus on. Now, the contents of this presentation are for informational purposes only. The content is not meant to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. This information is not meant to prevent, alleviate, or cure any disease or disorder. Always seek the advice of a qualified health provider with any questions you may have about a medical condition. It may seem shocking to learn that although it was only discovered about 25 years ago, we have a system in our bodies that is responsible for creating homeostasis, which is balance in the body, that has been around for over 600 million years. This system is called the endocannabinoid system. Now, this diagram shows the importance of the endocannabinoid system, as it is a network of receptors spread throughout the entire body that control some of our most vital life functions, including our immune system, memory, appetite, sleep pattern, mood, and pain sensation. If you look at the left, we have disorders that CBD assists with. We have CTE, or chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is chronic concussion syndrome, Alzheimer's, glioblastoma, Parkinson's, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, PTSD, asthma, hypertension, Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, testicular cancer, prostate cancer, osteoporosis, rheumatoid arthritis, menstrual cramps, diabetes, breast cancer, migraines, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, depression, and epilepsy. These are all disorders that scientific research has shown that CBD assists with. Now, the endocannabinoid system controls a major part of the brain and other systems in the body. So it controls the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, the parathyroid glands, the thyroid gland, the thymus, the pancreas, adrenal glands, kidneys, and ovaries. So it is vital that we have the proper endocannabinoids working in our body and as well supplement it with CBD. Brain cells have switches known as receptors that can be activated by endocannabinoids, a class of lipid molecules made by the body that are used for intracellular signaling in the brain. The human endocannabinoid system. We have THC, CBD, and CBN are the most popular CBDs that are found in cannabis. And they fit like a lock and key into existing human receptors. These receptors are part of the endocannabinoid system, which impact physiological processes affecting pain modulation, like we said, memory, appetite, anti-inflammatory effects, and other immune system responses. The endocannabinoid system has two types of receptors, CB1 and CB2, which serve distinct functions in human health and well-being. We like to call them poise and tone. CB1 receptors are primarily found in the brain and central nervous system, and CB2 receptors are found mostly in the peripheral organs, especially cells associated with the immune system. And if you look at the picture on the right, it shows that these receptors are found on cell surfaces throughout our body. It is an established scientific fact that cannabinoids, or CBD, and other components of the cannabis can modulate many physiological symptoms in the human brain and body. Cannabinoids are chemical compounds that trigger cannabinoid and other receptors. More than 100 cannabinoids have been identified in the cannabis plant. Another diagram that shows the importance of how CBD works in our body. And since we're talking about the brain, I just want to focus on the top picture here, where we focus on memory and learning, brain plasticity, neural development, and stress and emotions. And I want to cover those topics a little bit here for just a second. Now the first one, memory and learning, that's pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to spend any time on that. The next one, brain plasticity. What does it mean? Our brains aren't plastic, but what it means is the human brain has the amazing ability to reorganize itself by forming new connections between brain cells or neurons. Neural development. This is nerve growth. We have, and this diagram shows the motility of the neuron along normal development. And the last one we have is stress and emotions. Again, pretty self-explanatory. All of the daily stresses and emotions that we deal with. Now, Alzheimer's disease looks very similar to many different brain disorders, including CTE, which is getting a lot of press these days because of the NFL and concussion syndrome. Recently, Aaron Hernandez's brain images were released, and this is the doctor that did the study and found she was comparing. On the left, there's a normal 27-year-old brain, and on the right was Aaron Hernandez's brain. Again, he was a football player who was convicted of murder and then killed himself in jail. You can see the size difference of the brain of a 27-year-old and his. Dr. McKee explains with the following quote to the Boston Globe. "We can't take the pathology and explain the behavior, but we can say collectively that individuals with CTE of this severity have difficulty with impulse control, decision-making, aggression, often emotional volatility, and rage behavior." And again, if you have spent time with anybody that has different brain disorders, a lot of those things they have in common. Most researchers agree that what many brain disorders have in common is inflammation in the brain. The following slides will show you what is believed to be the exact cause of the problem, but keep in mind that inflammation is at the root cause. These three culprits are believed to be at the root of the problem and have been the focus of a lot of research. Now, the only really bad one is the first one, amyloid plaque. Then we have tau protein and tubulin. But again, all of these, especially tau and amyloid plaques, are the focus of a lot of research. And we'll explain what they do and what their purpose is right here. The top left, we have a healthy neuron. Out of the neuron, we have dendrites and then the axon, which is how the electrical impulses get sent from one to another. Now, the axon has in it microtubules. Now, they need to be strong and held together by the tau protein. So tau is extremely important in the normal healthy cell of our nerve cells. What happens when we have inflammation or any kind of trauma to the brain, those tau proteins can get damaged and irritated, and they don't function properly anymore. When that happens, those microtubules lose their connectivity and they basically fall apart, and that causes the amyloid plaque. And on the right hand side we have the healthy brain, mild Alzheimer's disease, and then severe Alzheimer's disease. And again, what happens is these amyloid plaques will cause a bunch of fibrils within the brain, and they don't allow our connections or all of our synapses to communicate the way that they should. One more little diagram to help explain. On the left we have a healthy neuron, and then we have the initiation of the tau malfunctioning, and ultimately it leads to tau fibrils, and they call it here a ghost tangle. But again, we have these microfilaments in the brain that are caused by the malfunction of the tau. So a question for you. If beta-amyloid plaque is a hallmark characteristic of Alzheimer's disease and is commonly thought to cause the neurodegenerative disease, so what if there was a way to reduce amyloid plaque? That would be huge, wouldn't it? So I took this slide directly from the Salk website, the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California. June 27, 2016, they found that cannabinoids remove plaque-forming Alzheimer's proteins from brain cells. That's a major finding. Another great researcher at the Department of Neuroscience in Ohio State University found that CBD reduces inflammation and damage to the brain of mice. He found that glucose use in the brain of Alzheimer's disease mice became almost normal after CBD. Here's a quote from him. The CBD receptors in the brain do not reduce significantly with age. This brain-penetrating, powerful anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, neuroregenerative, neurogenic stimulus can help counteract the natural aging process as well as damage from brain disorders. Glutamate, which is very prevalent in inflammation, CBD does not affect glutamate receptors, but indirectly they can prevent neurotoxicity, and we think that's how they restore neurogenesis. So CBD helps with inflammation, helps with neurogenesis, or creation of new brain cells. Pretty huge again. His conclusions were low doses of cannabinoids, or CBD, are neuroprotective via their ability to regulate glutamate transmission and restore neurogenesis. Stimulating endocannabinoid receptors directly or preventing their reuptake are more effective than preventing their catabolism. A selective endocannabinoid reuptake inhibitor might be an effective preventative treatment for Alzheimer's disease. The next two slides are for our neurogeeks and other doctors. CBD was able to dose-dependently decrease AB-induced expression of INOS, GFAP, S100 calcium-binding protein B, and P50 and P56 antibodies in rat astrocytes. INOS and GFAP, as mentioned previously, are key elements in reactive gliosis, and therefore their reduction demonstrates CBD's anti-inflammatory properties. CBD's ability to reduce reactive gliosis is further emphasized by the inhibition of S100B. It's amazing the depth that they go into the biochemistry and the neurophysiology of what CBD can do, as evidenced from this slide. Again, for everyone else who is not a research geek, the main thing I want you to walk away from this slide is CBD's anti-inflammatory properties in the brain. One last slide along those lines, which is extremely important, is CBD was able to restore CA1 pyramidal neurons to a similar integrity to that of the control rats. CBD also downregulated gliosis and repaired neurogenesis in the dentate gyrus. Now, if you're not familiar with your neuroanatomy and physiology, the dentate gyrus is extremely important in memory and short-term memory as well, which Alzheimer's disease affects. Some more very interesting research out of Stanford. Blocking brain's internal marijuana may trigger early Alzheimer's deficits, the study shows. Again, this was from June 2014. So I just want to emphasize the amount of research, credible scientific research. Go to pubmed.gov. This is where all the scientific papers can be found. And I just typed in cannabinoids and neuroinflammation. You can have fun with this. CBD and tau, CBD and Alzheimer's, CBD and you name the disorder, type it in, you're going to find a ton of research. Look at the three that first pop up and how interesting this is. Neuroinflammation as a possible link between cannabinoids and addiction. there's a lot of doctors that are using CBD in their addiction medicine practices. Cannabinoids for the treatment of agitation and aggression in Alzheimer's disease. The last one here, cannabinoid receptor 2, potential role in immunomodulation and neuroinflammation. Now, I was, again, just blown away with the number of papers, scientific papers, on cannabinoids, CBD, and neuroinflammation. Just look at the bottom of the slide here. I circled it. This search result, this page had 1 to 20 of 119 papers published on CBD and neuroinflammation. That's huge. Now this, according to a 2013 review published in the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology, an extremely scientific, prestigious medical journal, they say studies have found CBD to possess the following medical properties. You can read them all. I'm just going to read the effects. Reduces nausea and vomiting. Suppresses seizure activity. Combats psychosis disorders. Combats inflammatory disorders. Combats neurodegenerative disorders. Combats tumor and cancer cells. Combats anxiety and depression disorders. Combats pain and pain-related disorders. Again, I think we all need to supplement our bodies with CBD. Project CBD states, cannabis therapeutics may also help to manage Parkinson's disease symptoms and slow the progression of the disease. It's a great reason why Michael J. Fox has his own CBD line. I think I found a better one, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Now this might get you a little ticked off like it did me. Acclaimed neurologist Sir William Gowers was the first to mention cannabis as a treatment for tremors in 1886. In his manual, Diseases of the Nervous System, which you can find this book online, Dr. Gowers noted that oral consumption of an Indian hemp extract quieted tremors temporarily, and after a year of chronic use, the patient's tremors nearly ceased. Now, 1886? Isn't this interesting that a doctor recommended cannabis for neurological issues over 130 years ago, and yet people are shocked to hear about this today? It's amazing, isn't it? Why would that be? Just follow the money. The best hemp oil blend is incredibly unique in that the nano enhancement make the particles small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, allowing the cannabinoids to reduce inflammation of the brain and spinal cord. This is a game changer in the neurodegenerative community, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, post-concussion syndrome, ALS, dementia, etc., as well as ADD, ADHD, and autism diagnoses. Additionally, the product is liposomal, which allows it to be absorbed at a very high rate through a fat delivery system. This is also important because 60 to 70% of the brain is fat. So with this CBD oil, what you do is you squirt it in your mouth, 2 or 3 pumps, hold it there for 30 seconds, and it starts to get absorbed right through the lining of the mouth, right into the bloodstream, before it ever hits your stomach, where a lot of CBD oil gets destroyed. Here's a very interesting side-by-side comparison of one of the most popular pharmaceutical grade CBD oils. Now ours is the green, if you can tell by the color. It's the top big bell curve up there. And what's interesting is that they used 5 milligrams of our nano-enhanced hemp oil versus 10 milligrams of one of the CBD leading brands. Look at how quickly ours is absorbed. Down at the bottom, that scale is time in minutes, and the scale on the left is how much got into our blood. Look at how much more effective ours is at half the dose of theirs. and ours is less money. So ours is 5 to 10 times more effective. If you would like more information on what I firmly believe is the best hemp oil on the market, I recommend that you get in touch with me. Love to share it with people. Again, I believe everybody needs to be taking it. The stories that I have seen, the results that I have seen are simply amazing, and just get more and more impressive every day. So shoot me an email or get in touch with the person that referred you here, and we can't wait to hear your story. Thanks very much, and have a great day.